super busy calendar tonight. So want to get started as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
We're gonna kick it off with Santa Monica. We're gonna kick it off with Santa Monica Police Department. Then we've got Assembly Members Burr, who's going to be joining via Zoom to talk about some state issues, followed by local council member Barry Snell, and then Mitch Alban talking about, sorry, not Mitch Alves, talking about big outdoor, and then we'll get to the board business. So without further ado, we can hand it over to the officers who are here tonight to update us on all things Santa Monica. I think
I know you've met Officer Tago. He has been helping out while Officer Avila is out. Then still all know Officer Hollowell as well. All right, so I'm gonna keep it. I'm trying to keep it short and sweet so we can get to our questions today. And like I said, we have a full agenda. There was one thing in particular I wanted to discuss, and that was catalytic converters. So in the last year or so, we've actually seen quite a significant decrease in catalytic converter deaths. And these definitely ebb and flow. We do tend to see them increase when the price of the precious metals increase. So right now we've seen a little bit of fluctuation. It's still pretty low compared to the average that we've seen. However, we did have 2 incidents in the city that were a bit concerning. One was in the B3 area and another one was in the OPA area. So this incident happened on the 600 block of Hill Street around 5:45 in the morning. And the victim heard sawing noises outside of his apartment. And as we may know, that usually means that there's some sort of catalytic converter that's in process. So he steps out and confronts the individuals that are under his vehicle. There were 2 suspects out there and they ran with the gun. So the victim runs off, warns his neighbors, and they call police, and they're able to get some descriptors for police, but still an open investigation. The other incident was not in the OVA area, but there was another similar incident that happened. Like I said, in the B3 area. I think this was on Urban. So it's something that we definitely are aware of and we are investigating. And if you have any knowledge of this, please let us know. We can put you in touch with the detectives. But with that being said, with catalytic converter, we always have this educational portion. We want to ensure people are aware of what sounds to look for, suspicious activity, tools at 5 in the morning that just doesn't add up. But we never want you to go out there and confront anybody yourself. If you're able to safely look out from your window, get a description of the vehicle or the suspect, the direction of travel, all those things are incredibly helpful. These crimes are difficult for us because by the time that officers arrive, they're usually gone. It happens within a minute or two. So it's a very quick activity. So whatever you're able to provide without putting yourself in danger. So just a reminder to not go out there, especially with these 2 incidents happening in recent times. We want to ensure that you're all safe. So just something to be wary of.
Can I touch on this? There's a story from Los Angeles that happened. It was in the news cycle last week or the week before. Someone went out for a Cadillac converter theft and he ended up getting stabbed. The fire truck is passing by and he's thinking that, hey, I'm going to wave it down. Well, generally when fire trucks are go out with their lights and sirens, they're going to a call. Right. Generally not going to stop for anybody. So just be aware that these Cadillac converter folks are that violent and willing to go to the next mile to make sure they get the precious metals to sell them. So do not the time that you're wasting to go out there, because I don't think it's effective for one person to go out there. That's why it's called. You could use that same time and call us and we will try to respond as quickly as possible because we do want to catch those. It's a very serious crime for us just because once we get a couple, then we get more. So we want to put a hamper on it by responding as fast as we can, but never go out there and try to confront people. Always call the police.
And I would say in years past, these were technically, they were just considered property crimes. They were thefts, but now we're seeing them as one of these said, we're looking at assaults with a deadly weapon. So now the activity has increased to that level. So we want to ensure that the community is aware of that and to that you're safe with that. We have had edge catch events in the past. So with the etch and catch is where they etch the catalytic converter with your license plate. We would have it at Firestone on Lincoln. We haven't had one in a while, and with this activity happening, we want to kind of come back to that and have that educational portion. So we are working on bringing that back. We've had some issues with the location, so hopefully we can get that back soon. And we'll start with the neighborhood groups as far as opening up slots. So once we get that going, I'll be reaching out to each neighborhood association, particularly in the areas that are targeted, and they can put that out on your newsletter to ensure that we get that participation. The other aspect I was talking about were some burglaries. So 8 total burglaries, broken down in 3 that were commercial, 3 that were residential where there was entry into either a lobby where packages were stolen, or 2 where they entered an apartment, and 2 that were garage break-ins. There were 9 GTAs, so Grand Theft Auto, so the entire vehicle was taken in these scenarios. And then the last part was the pocket picking. There were total about 18 incidents between the last couple of weekends. And this was not just at the Victorium, we also had some at Jameson's Pub. So between the 2, we had those totals. As we've discussed in the past, we tend to see a lot of it at the Victorium, but Jameson does get hit. So just looking at the numbers, it was sort of a kind of aspect of that. And this isn't just cell phones, they're looking at wallets. If you have something sticking out of your pocket that could be easily grabbed, it gets pretty crowded, so it's very easy to not feel that when you're by that crowded space. So something to be wary of.
Well, I know a lot of you are not hanging out at the Jameson or at the Victoria. But I will tell you from working ops, which is the nighttime detail that is on Main Street, that I'm not sure what goes on with young people. They're not as protective of their cell phones as I was when I was young. So sometimes you see things hanging out, or they're like, set it on the counter, and so it becomes emergent after it's already stolen. And so it's very hard to do trainings or do things because a lot of folks come from the USC area. It's the popular club for young people who go to Loyola Marymount or wherever. They come into the city, have their fun, maybe get their cell phone taken, and then they're like, oh man, it's gone. I need the report for the insurance company or whatever. They're not as concerned with catching the person unless they think they kind of see him. They just gotta make sure that they have a cell phone tomorrow and they feel like they need these numbers. So it's just a balancing act, because my hope is that we just like keep your phone in your pocket and like, guard it with your life. Because once they lose it, you think that Mount Rushmore got like taken down. It is very difficult to even have a conversation. They're like, do you know what it's like to have a cell phone stolen? I'm like, police officer, I think I know more serious things, but serious you right. And try to keep up with I'm gonna get mad with you. Yes. Yeah. So that's the biggest problem with Main Street during certain hour periods. So if you know any young people, tell them protect your phone.
Do you have enough police officers to take care of the city? From my understanding, you don't. And I'm questioning whether in the future, with more apartments and high rise coming up, that you won't have, if you don't have enough now, we're certainly not gonna have enough in the future. In the realm of, I don't know how to ask the question.
We don't service the numbers of, that's not our department. We're a department, so you have to go to the people above our department to ask that question.
But we do need more officers.
Yeah. But like if you want more, you've got to go above the police department in the city to get the number.
Mark, you have a question?
Sentinel today. There was a shooting that happened. I'm not sure what the shooting was over, but it happened in LAPD jurisdiction. So we didn't get much information, but it was all LAPD.
Because you guys were helping at one end, but
Yeah.
they were.
It sounded like it happened on the border on LAPD side. Some type of shooting over possibly the dispensary or something.
Thank you.
John, then Mark.
So the health center that's going in on Pico and Main Street. Over the last, just thinking about what your perspective is, over the last couple of meetings, we've had the city attorney and a couple of electeds come in, talking about what it was and what's gonna happen, but we're really curious from your perspective, what does that mean to an officer? When, what's our expectation be for kind of how you interact and what to do.
I look at it in two ways, and myself and Halima went to a meeting and we discussed it with a couple other community groups. I think we're holding a footprint, which is that where nothing is right now. So there will be some natural barriers that just go into place, that you'll have security around, police will be coming and going, clinicians. So there'll be some traffic, and you're actually creating movement in a space where there was nothing but people sleeping outside of the city. Now, as it applies to, is it gonna be effective? I'm not sure, because no one can show me a working model where it's worked before. So the state was willing to give the $8 million, so the city attorney is willing to take a try at it, and so we will have to wait. You're talking to a 22-year veteran of policing. Do I believe in everything? Probably not. Am I willing to try most things? At this point in my career, yes.
When
When
will it start?
April? I thought you were meaning when will I? Oh, dear God.
Cool. All right.
It's supposed to be a center where people do not rise to the level of criminality, but they come in the crosshairs of police officers, meaning they may come to a call for service. They are unhoused or they're having a life crisis, which may cause them to need some help or resources. This location is going to have a trailer with a security guard, a navigator, clinicians, and have 4 spaces. And they are, if they agree, they can go to a space outside of the city and receive services. So it could be, I came here from Montana. I thought LA was going to be my everything. I'm down, out, destitute, don't meet the criteria for mental health. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't have drugs or alcohol on me or in my system, but I may have been loitering at a location. There's no prosecution. Nobody wants anything done. Somebody will say, hey, would you be interested in going to this program? We then drive them over after checking them for warrants and warrants, straight over to the location where these people are located to help them with the resources inside of this trailer. And they hopefully go off and figure out how to get reconnected with family or job, living situations. But it's something we've never had before.
Great. Thank you for coming tonight. Thanks for everything you're doing as always. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have council member, state assembly member Zbur. I'm hoping you're on the line. I throw you on the big screen. Robbie. Someone from his office that was here a few minutes ago, but I don't see him either right now. Sorry about this. He may have got pulled into something. Luckily, our next guest, city council member Barry Snell is here. You get to jump up now?
And thank you for inviting me. I was realizing today that this is 90 days since I took over the job of city councilman. It was 90 days. So it's really been a joy, a lot of work, an awful lot of work. I expected it. But I'll give you a little bit of background about myself for those of you that don't know me. I've lived in Santa Monica since 2005. I moved here because I was a single father of 3 children, and I wanted my kids to go into the school system, and I just gone through a divorce. And we couldn't afford private schools, so we moved over to Santa Monica. So I got involved with the school system, and in 2006, I jumped into a school board race and became a school board member. I spent 4 years there, didn't win my reelection. Learned real quickly about politics in Santa Monica. It wasn't that easy. Spent 2 years working on other organizations, in part of the peer committee, peer board, couple other committees like SEPS and SMER. And then in 2011 got appointed, 2012 got appointed to the College Board and spent 10 years at the College Board until I got elected for City Council. Also spent 3 years at the State College Board also. So I'm really involved in public service. I believe in public service. Comes back from my time in New Jersey with my dad, who was really involved with the school board. He ran for city council, didn't win, but was part of the alcohol and beverage control. It was always about a commitment to community. I love this town. You know, it's really interesting being on city council and listening to people complain about this town so much. It's really understanding that we're really in an amazing place. We have our issues, but we are far away from compared to other cities, and we just have to work through things. In my 90 days of being there, the first day we got elected, the second day the city manager gave his resignation. Okay, so which is something that you know, I've been involved with being in public office here. I helped hire Kathleen Jeffries at the College Board when she was there. I helped hire Andrew, who is the executive director of Downtown Santa Monica Board. So I'm really involved in understanding what some of the needs are, and I'm part of the ad hoc committee for doing the search for the actual new city manager. And what we've heard from our search firm is that we really are going to get an incredible amount of good applications for it. And I think I think that's, you know, I think that's a good thing. My hopes is that we hire somebody for 5 years at a minimum. That's one of my goals, and that's one of my objectives, because over the last 3-4 years, we've had a turntable of city managers, and I think that inconsistency also doesn't help with us coming back from an incredible pandemic and social unrest. And so I'm hoping that we can really find someone. I don't anticipate finding someone before we get through our first fiscal year in June. And during that period of time, we're going to have to hire, and we're going to have to negotiate with 11 unions, which we're working with. And so we hired an interim. Many of you might know Elaine Polachek. She's worked for the city for a number of years. I understand she worked originally at the pier, worked at the pier back in some day, and then came on and was assistant city manager and was an interim at the time, and then actually worked with us over at the college for 2 years before she retired from the college. So I'm really familiar with Elaine. I think it's really good to have someone that has the historical background of Santa Monica. And so I'm hoping for us to be able to have a good search and really have that consistency during these next 5 months. My priorities, I love education. And one of the reasons, as I told you before, I moved to Santa Monica because of the public education system. And I think we have a fantastic community college. And I love the relationship between the city and the school district. I really think it's been one that's been a positive one. Our city contributes an awful lot of finances to our school district, and I see the development. You know, it's just amazing what we get from a public school standpoint. So when you go to other cities and you hear about what's happening with their public schools, they can't even compete with Santa Monica. So I think that's a good thing. I'm a renter, so I'm very supportive of renters' rights. And I'm also an individual that really believes that that we have a community of 90,000 people, 8 square miles, that as a city council member, I should be representing all 90,000 people. So I'm not supportive of any district voting personally, but if it is something that comes on to our election, then I mean, it should be elected type of situation. So that's kind of my background. My day job, I'm a CPA. I'm a forensic accountant. I work, my practice has been, I've been in practice over 25 years, small business, a lot of trust and estate work. I share office space with 4 attorneys. And so that's my background. My wife, Kara, she's come before you before, is worked with the nonprofit Santa Monica Black Empowerment Association. And our multifamily now, we have 5 together, and we just became grandparents to 2 people. So that's kind of where we're at. But I really want to hear from you, because as I said, there's a lot that is going on in our city. I think there are some positive things. What I have been doing is getting to meet all the department heads and finding out what their interests are. Many of you might not know, but back in 2000, and I guess it was 19, just before the pandemic, we had a huge cut in our staff, almost by 1/3. And with the pandemic coming, with the social unrest, I really think that our staff has really been impacted. And then you'll see if, when the fire started, that's another thing that really affected our staff. So yeah, okay, that's the time. My EMI is watering. Let me get that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sinuses. So I really want to hear from you. I mean, I as I said, it's been 90 days. New city manager we're looking for, a fire that started on the 7th of January. I think as a council, we're all there's 4 new council members. I think Amanda Gritty is doing a fantastic job being a public spokesman for us. I think we're starting to work together. One of the reasons why I jumped into this race was I felt, and this is just a personal thing, that our council was dysfunctional for a long period of time over the last 4 years. Not that we can't disagree about things, but I just felt there were so many things going on in council that were not very supportive for the community to hear. I think you have to have council. Like I said, I've been on a lot of boards, and one of the things I pride myself on is one that I understand Brown Act rules. I understand how things should happen with respect to how we get issues on and how we discuss publicly. These private issues that we do in closed door session are private. And so I believe that as a council member, that if I'm going to be representative of the community, that there's a responsibility for me to handle the rules in a proper way. And I'm a firm believer that I felt that that wasn't happening over the past four years, and that's why I jumped into the race. So tonight, I'd really like to hear from you. I mean, I've got a lot on my things that I'd like to talk about, but I really want to hear from you as to some of the things that you're concerned. Yes, Jim.
Yeah, I wasn't able, unfortunately, to go to the meeting you had on Saturday at the library.
Yeah.
Anything you could share about what happened there and a little bit about the next council meeting, what's coming up.
Okay, sounds good. So for those of you that don't know, we had a budget session this past Saturday, and the goal of the session was for council to give staff direction and to hear from the community as to what our financial priorities would be over the next between the next half of the year, okay, so to speak. And we are really in financial dire straits. We're going to have to pull, we have an assumption of about 33 million that we're going to have to pull from our funds, our reserve funds, to be able to handle and manage going forward. And this is a lot that has to do with the pandemic. We're still getting back from it. The fire didn't help things that much as we're going along. And so council was really giving directions to staff as to what the priorities are. The prior council really focused on clean and safe, and we're still very much focused on that. But we also believe that we're going to have to really take a look at our economic revitalization. And what I mean by that is what we're going to really have to do is take a look at some of our policies and really see how we can expedite our policies so that businesses can open up again. For a long time, Santa Monica was a hub for our tourism traffic, and it still is for a long period of time, but now we're gonna have to take a look at things of bringing back regional type traffic. We're gonna have to take a look at what we need for our community. And one of the things, when I was on the downtown Santa Monica board for 12 years, and one of the things I talked about a lot while I was down there is that I never thought we did a good enough job at really understanding where our immediate community and our regional community, what kind of services they needed, how do we attract, local and regional traffic. So I think that's something that we're gonna have to take a look at. We're for one period of time, we were really focused on retail, and we still will be focused on retail, but I think now we're gonna be looking more in the areas of entertainment. Our restaurants work on a very small budget, okay? And it's something that we probably should have been taking a look at a longer time before, but it's something that we really need to focus on and really help our businesses with expediting and reducing the permit process. And if that means going out and getting third party to help with respect to that, and I know our unions might have some concerns about that, but we really, and I'm very much focused on that. I want to be able for a business to come in, and if it's a viable business, to be able to open up and not take 2 years to open up, because most of our businesses can't afford to do it. Okay, and I understand that. I've watched so many businesses that have failed in the first couple of months after they've opened, but no one knows that the 8-9 months beforehand, the cost of having to open up had just been tremendous. So I'm gonna be very focused on that and looking at ways as to how we as a city can help. On the other hand, I'm going to also be very focused, and I've asked our business department, I'm gonna be very focused on those property owners that are absent, those property owners that have not really been partners with us as a city. Okay, because we have those. I make a big example of this every time I talk with people, and I will continue to do it. Like I said, I've been on the downtown Santa Monica board for 12 years. And as a single father, the most money I spent in the downtown area was going to get pizza, going to movies, and going to the bookstore with my kids on the corner of Wilshire. Okay, that was the most money I spent as a resident. Okay, that bookstore has been closed now 12 years. Okay, no, I'm talking about where that location was, on the corner of Third. All right, it has nothing to do with the pandemic. That had nothing to do with the riots. That has to do with the shit. And we as residents in the city, if we're gonna work well with our commercial partners, they have to work well with us also. Because I know as a business owner, if I owned a property on Wilshire and Third, it wouldn't be empty for 12 years. Okay, it just would. So those are the kind of things. So anyway, yeah. Yeah. Sure, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I heard, you talking about the mayor communicating, and
Right.
when I heard that, I thought, that sounds really interesting. We live in the information age, we live in Silicon Beach. I was wondering, there's a lot of data that's available, right? You see the kiosks,
Right.
there's different ways to communicate, right? City business or whatever it is. Is any thought been given by the 7 current council members about doing something about improving the way you communicate, maybe use some more technology? Has that been on your radar at all?
It has been, we talked a little bit, a couple of the council members talked a little bit about it, actually on Saturday. There hasn't been any work from the city on that aspect of it, but it's something that we probably should take a look at. Okay, yes, Jude.
What I noticed most on Saturday was that the microphones didn't work. It was horrible to try and listen to what,
That's true.
particularly what the staff was saying. And I think that maybe in the future, there needs to be a different choices of where to meet, or better
Good point.
audio visual.
I actually said that to Susan Klein afterwards, that we did, when when we have these kind of workshops where we want the community to come out, we can't have these kind of hiccups. We can't have, they've got to hear us, we've got to be able to hear from them. My understanding, I got a number of emails from individuals that weren't there. We didn't have a visual, but we did have the vocal, and they couldn't hear that either.
Right.
And that's a problem.
That's
That's a
right.
real problem.
I saw what I had. That's an experience, yeah.
Hi, what's your name?
Maggie Allister.
Hi, Maggie.
My concern is for the empty restaurant on the corner of Ashford and Main. It's been there for years now. That's just, it looks like we go up in flames.
Take a note of that.
It's, yeah. It's called, what was it?
So I can give just a 30 seconds on that. And John, if you have more to add, the owner of that property died a few years ago. There's multiple children who have been fighting over the estate, and they don't feel empowered to re-let the estate until they know what's happening with the money that's getting, fought over by the kids. Did you have more to add on that? So like that said is, and we've talked about this before at previous meetings, maybe there's opportunities for vacancy taxes or other things, but
We scare people when we talk about vacancy tax, property owners. But I do believe that there's an opportunity for us to understand those kind of issues and establish fees, because vacancy tax, my understanding is you have to go out to the voters, if I'm not mistaken, with respect to it. But if there's things that we could do with respect to incentivize some type of.
but then you were asking about safety issues, correct?
And
Places of fire.
definitely, Maine and Ashland, I would definitely take a note of that, and I'll have an answer for you too.
And I could shoot you a line.
Okay.
You have it, right?
Should be considered in terms of how many years you can have a building vacant like that.
I'm a firm believer of that, and there should, I mean, I understand the pandemic, I understand the issue with respect to the social unrest downtown, but as we go around our city, we see so many empty buildings, and it's not always because of those two reasons when I hear from property owners. Okay, I mean, I'm in the accounting business. Property owners from time to time, they're still getting tax credit. Their tax base is very low. There is no incentive sometimes, okay, to open up. It's more than advantageous when you look at your portfolio to keep it closed, okay? And this kind of thing doesn't benefit us as residents. So I'm a firm believer of finding out who that is. And I said to somebody the other day, just like you see faces on the post office box, okay, of those items. I would love to do that with the owners that aren't playing with us. Go right ahead.
I guess I'm kind of naive about the future look of Santa Monica, the way it looks now, as opposed to the future. Because where Gelson's is, I believe there's supposed to be a mega apartment building going out there. And there's one at Ashland now, it takes off the skyline.
Right.
And from what I understand, and there's one at 17th in Montana, and there's a bunch that probably I don't even know about.
Right.
Well, are you concerned about losing the single residential neighborhoods?
Not at all. No.
You think?
As a matter of fact, during our budget session on Saturday, the one revenue indicator that went up, okay, sales tax went down, our TOD tax, which is our bid tax for our hotels, that went down. The one tax that went up is our property taxes, okay, which means that there's people are buying houses, all right, and I don't know about you, when you see what they're purchasing for houses in our area right now, and that is the one tax that went up. So, I mean, one of the things that I'm going to do as a councilman is listen to residents and get information, and ask good questions, and I really believe working with data. Really working with information that's available to make my decisions. And you may not always agree with me, but that's how I'm gonna go about my approach, okay? So to answer your question, and to answer your question about the police, I heard you ask the police officers that. One of the things that, we know, and it's not only in our city, it's all over the county, is that everyone's having a difficult time hiring police officers. I don't care where you look, Los Angeles is having a problem, everybody's having a problem. We have had in our budget, and someone who's made up, correct, we have slotted 14 police officers positions now for last 2 years, I think it was, that we have not been able to fill. I don't know if you know this, but we have a clause with our police department where we have to be the second highest paid police department in the area. So what that means is that if Beverly Hills goes and gets a raise and it puts us down to 3 or 4, we automatically, our police department gets a raise.
Wow.
All right. Last year, now we're going around to our bargaining units right now. We're telling everybody the most we're going to be able to give you is 2%. Last year, the police department got 11% raise because of that very cost. Now, get me wrong, I love our police. I think our police do a fine job. I think it's important for us to have police. I believe that, and I grew up on the East Coast, I believe that activation in our area, more traffic, more foot, reduces crime. I'm a firm believer of those kind of things. But to sit here and say we need more police without trying to do other things, because I really do think that we need to do more, use technology more too.
Yeah, my
With it.
question was.
One second, I'm sorry, pause you.
What about it?
Can I pause this conversation
Sure.
for just a minute? Fortunately,
He's here? Okay.
sorry about the technical difficulties getting Assembly members Burr on. He is here, but he does have to drop, but he wanted to say a quick hello to everyone and we'll hopefully be able to reschedule him for another time and more in depth.
Oh, sure.
Assembly members Burr, are you there?
Oh, no,
Yeah, yes, I am. I've been, so I apologize
Nick,
for,
can't hear you.
can you hear me?
Nick, you're taking my spot.
Hi, Councilmember Sell, nice to see you.
Nice to meet you too. I see you.
I am so sorry that, it took me about 15 minutes to get on and I'm on my cell phone only because I could use the Apple Pay to get on. Was some kind of, thing where I needed to know, an email with a passcode and nothing was working. So, anyway, unfortunately I've got another engagement, but if we can maybe reschedule this for next month, I'd love to spend more time with you. And I promise we won't schedule me so tightly, next month if I'm invited back.
Of course, absolutely. Sorry for any technical difficulties because. Talk to you soon.
Okay, and Councilmember Sell, thank you for being so gracious to let me
No
pop in for a
problem.
minute.
No problem.
Take care, bye-bye.
My question is, I've got the disappearance of single residential homes with this density of apartments and, you know, along transit corridors, you get the high rise.
Right.
Then it goes back the first block and then the rest of the streets.
So what's your question?
The way the city in the future, do you see with the current law or what we're already seeing is the disappearance of the single residential home? Because you do have a state law, SB 10, which allows it, and the city can go along with it or not go along with it.
I mean, I don't think we're gonna get rid of single family homes. That's my personal opinion. I mean, I just don't. I mean, we're seeing where we're getting new construction. We're seeing that, I mean, I know we have a housing crisis here and across our state. The question is, where should we build housing in our city and particularly affordable housing? That's gonna be a tough decision. But you said to me earlier, I believe in supply and demand. And when I told you, when I saw property taxes go up, that tells me that demand is still there, okay? That means that we need more supply.
Yeah, but you can sell out the city tax or your increase in taxes. That's where it's one or the other.
Thank you.
Meetings can come back on public TV. They haven't been here. The last.
They cut it because of our budget, and
Certainly not.
not at this particular time. Nothing is talked about with respect to going forward. Yeah, it's been important, but
But they're all live streamed on YouTube.
It is on YouTube. Yeah,
It's not like it's not there.
Get technical.
yes, it is on YouTube. I mean, Jerry asked about our city council meeting on Tuesday, and I went home on Saturday, started reading, and Sunday we've got a couple of closed session items. We've got an item with respect to what's going on negotiation with the Civic Center. And I don't know if those of you have been following what's going on at Civic Center. I guess the Civic Center, how long has it been closed down, Jerry?
Over a year, the auditorium, we're talking,
Go ahead, Tony. Yes,
a number of years, but it was
probably since 2010, I guess.
it's a massive movement now to get that.
Right.
And
So-
revitalized.
So we had an exclusive agreement that was established in July. My understanding, and I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow when it comes back to closed session, but I understand that the group that put together that we gave the exclusive rights to is gonna come back and give us some information. So let's hope. And I enjoyed the Civic Center when I was there. I know that we can have an empty Civic Center for another 10 years. Okay, so we gotta do something with respect to it. Other things that are on the agenda that I can remember off the top of my head, I know we're going to be talking about the CVRA contract litigation that we have to do. One of the reasons that we're in a financial situation where we are is because of litigation. I'm sure you guys can remember this for a long period of time. So the question is, how are we kind of going forward? We're doing. I know that we're fighting some of our insurance companies with respect to some of the litigation for reimbursements and those kind of things. So that's where we are. I mean, this particular city council meeting didn't look like there was a whole lot of items on it that would keep us there all night. Any other questions? I just want to tell you that I really, really want. I try to respond to emails. I try to respond to telephone calls as much as possible. So I strongly recommend that send me an email, and I'll try to get back to you. It's we got a lot going on, but we're fortunate that we also have a lot. I mean, I haven't even talked to you about the possibility of us having an Olympic beach volleyball here. Okay, that's another one that is a very good possibility. One of the things that I know for a fact, and I'm seeing that people still want to come to Santa Monica. Okay, I mean, that is something, and we have a serious homeless problem. I've done the homeless count now for probably the last 10 years. Okay, and it is definitely a lot worse than 10 years ago. All right. I personally think that it's not just a city problem. It's going to have to be a regional discussion as to how we move this thing forward. We don't have enough beds we don't have any in our city, but we just don't have enough. We have a bunch of resources, but coordinating it with other cities and with our county is something that we're going to have to continue to do to resolve this unhoused population. Because I don't have an answer for it either. I mean, I think our police do a fantastic job with it. I think all the services that we're instituting, you heard what the police were talking about earlier, are good. And I just think it's something that we're going to have to continue to try to tackle. So please email me or call me, or I'm always available to help.
Great.
So thank you.
Tout is the level of his involvement as much as he probably could, but him and his wife are probably the two most engaged civic icons we have in our city for decades and decades, and they give their time, their love, everything to the city. So thank you for everything. Next up, let's talk about the library. Yeah, just turn the library. We got Judith, Erica, and Dana here to talk about all things library. All things library. Come on up. Do you want? I can pull up a couple chairs if you don't want to stand.
Stand behind over here, but Judith,
Sounds good.
here it's Dana and myself.
I'll hand the floor over to you. And I will get your.
But brief introduction, Erica Kagan, the director here at the library, all 5 libraries. I've actually been working for the library system for 19 years. Started out as a teen librarian, went on to manage the Fairview branch, and then went into administration and now the director. So I've grown up here in the library and with this community, and each different branch has its own distinct flavor and community. So glad to see you here using this branch. And we do know that we have a lot of work still to do with getting our branches open and staffing restored. And so Dana, who is on our library.
Let's all say thank you for that.
And you're on the board, huh?
I'm seeing it.
Rice used to be on the.
I'm Dana Newman. I'm coming up on my third year of being on the library board. I've been a Santa Monica resident since 1997, raised my family here. I work in book publishing, books, libraries are just my passion. So thank you for having us here and letting us share what's going on with the library and tell you what we're really focused on right now in terms of the future. So we put together a strategic plan, and it identifies basically 4 areas or 4 roles that we see the library serving in our city and in our community. It's a vibrant learning center, it's a well-being cultivator, it's a dynamic third place, and it's a community and a cultural connector. And I'll touch a little briefly on each of these areas now. In terms of being a vibrant learning center, we have literacy programs where people train to work with other people who need help learning to read. We have a program called Tech and Tasks, and this is where community members who might not have access to a computer or they need assistance working with computers and technology, they can come in, they can get free advice and guidance. And this can be really helpful for applying for jobs or registering to vote. Lots of other things that they would not normally be able to take care of on their own. And we have family literacy programs, which are crucial for the younger members of our community learning to read and taking advantage of the libraries. In terms of being a well-being cultivator, the programs that we have a workforce development program, which helps people with job interviews and applications and researching employment opportunities. We provide crucial research services and support, and this can be for students or people who are interested in researching local history. Kind of an interesting example of this that came up recently was after the Palisades fire. The Santa Monica Library actually houses a lot of original documents relating to the city of Pacific Palisades. So a lot of people have been coming to the library to get maps and those original property records and building records, those people who are trying to restore and preserve those historical aspects of the Palisades. And we also have a program, Read, Engage, and Discover, and we call these the Red Kits. And these are these really wonderful kind of interactive materials that you can come to the library and check out for a period of time. And one of them is about music, and you will receive a musical instrument and receive books that teach you how to use that. And there will be people who can assist you in learning to use that. We have them on mindfulness, bird watching, all kinds of interesting different topics. And it's kind of a really fun, more interactive thing that you can get besides just getting a book at the library. And then we are proud to be what is known as a third space, a place beyond, your office or your home where you can go and you can be in a supportive environment. And this is crucial for the teenage members of our community, where they can engage in programs, extracurricular activities, have social groups. The library serves as the space they can come to. That's really wonderful. And then we also have all kinds of programs that we conduct at all the various branches. And this can be from story times for young children. We have our summer reading programs, which are really popular, where everyone reads a book together and the kids keep track of how much they read. And we have it for adults as well. Holiday programs, special events and things like that, which are really essential for community. And then finally, we see the libraries as being a critical community and cultural connector. And this, for example, this past year, we had our very first ever poet laureate that we went through a selection process, and we chose incredibly talented writer named Anne Carmack, who is currently serving a 2-year term as our poet laureate. And she's been presenting at different events and conducting workshops around poetry and really bringing people together in a creative way, which has just been fantastic. We have something called the Human Library, which is really fun, where a individual will serve as like a book, and the other person will come and talk to them and ask them questions, and the individual who's the human library will answer those questions, and there's a wonderful exchange of information and a learning process that happens there. We had the Pico branch. We just had a 10th anniversary celebration, which was really fantastic and brought that community together. And then, of course, it serves as a wonderful place for the neighborhood groups to meet, such as what we're doing here this evening, and the other groups use the libraries as well. We had a event for all the people who have those little free libraries out in front of their homes, and we invited all the people to come and just share their experience. What's it like having this little free library? What did you learn? And they really appreciated being able to come together and talk about that process. And then we're also doing author talks. So local authors will come and talk about their books and have a Q&A session, and we're partnering with local bookstores to sell books at those events as well. So those are the four main areas of how we see the crucial role that the library plays in our city. So what we're really focused on right now is, council members now talked about our budget situation, the financial situation of the city, and we are fully aware of the bigger picture here. However, the library has been operating at pre-pandemic levels, and we're going on year 5 here. And this was in the newsletter. If you read the newsletter, you probably saw some of these statistics. But basically, we're at only 88% of our funding levels from 2019 and 66% of our staffing levels. So as you know, this branch and Fairview are not fully operational, and we very much would love to get them back to their prior status. I went to a library conference, it was 2 years ago now, called Serving with a Purpose, where all Southern California librarians and people with boards and the foundations that are associated with them come together and share. And I was just kind of shocked that Santa Monica was one of the few, if not only, cities that was not back up and running to post-pandemic levels. And it just, as a city of our quality and caliber, it was just really shocking to me that, we were still kind of limping along without all our branches open. So what we're trying to do is advocate and enlist your support in reaching out to city council and to the mayor and let them know how important it is to you that we allocate some more of this funding to the library. And what we're talking about, just to put it in perspective, in terms of like the percent of the overall budget of our city, the library is 2%. So it's kind of a drop in the bucket in terms of the whole big picture of what we spend our money on as a city. And yet, as I explained, the library just serves such a crucial role in our community for the citizens of our community. So what we would like is to at least get these 2 branches back up to being fully operational just 2 days a week. We're not even talking about the full schedule yet, but just for 2 days a week. We have estimated approximately $550,000 to $650,000 that we would need to increase the staffing and get those branches to have those additional hours. And again, we're talking about an overall budget of approximately $450 million. So just to keep it in perspective. We would urge you and appreciate your support in terms of reaching out to council members and the mayor, as I said, to advocate for this support for our libraries. And in terms of what is next and what we're focusing on at the board and at the library, we're engaging in something called community mapping, which is going out, like such as this right here, going out and speaking to neighborhood groups and doing research and doing focus groups and really trying to understand what the community wants from their libraries, making sure that we're receiving that information and taking that into consideration for future planning. the Friends of the Library, you might be familiar with the bookstore that's at the library. And that's a wonderful volunteer-run organization that raises money that in support of the library. So we're doing everything we can to support them and continue to partner with them to support the library spaces and the programs. And one of those spaces, which we've gone through an extensive planning process and have just a wonderful vision for, is that library courtyard and the cafe that used to be there. You're probably familiar, it hasn't really been operating for some time now, but it's just a fantastic space that's not really being utilized fully by our city. And we worked with, what were they called? I forget the name of the organization that came. Yeah, with Margaret Sullivan Contractors, and we did all kinds of workshopping, and we came up with just fantastic ideas for different things that we can use for that. But of course, it will cost money to do that, so that's part of what we're focusing on in conjunction with the Friends of a Library. And then, as I said, activating the neighborhood branches. That's really our number one priority, is to get these remaining branches back and running as much as we can. So I think that was pretty much what we wanted to share. If you had any questions, or we'd love to hear your feedback.
That's the advantage of sitting in the front row.
It's easy.
Thank you. First of all, I understand the budget crisis, but I can't think of anything singularly more important than getting our libraries back to full, not just 2 days a week, but full thing for the kids, for every aspect that it entails. I just remember how it used to be, and other cities are doing it. We have to do it, and I hope that the Friends of the Public Library can get some more PR, because the private community, if there's anything worthwhile in putting money into, it would be that. And I sure hope that we could get it so good that a cafeteria will come back, because people need that. And I don't think we need to think of the space. People used to sit there, enjoy everything, get something to eat, and go to the next event or the next meeting, or go up to the computers, or get their books out or their videos. So I just think that's something we need to do. The other question is about the Santa Monica Historic Museum. I don't know what relationship you have with them, but I think they're doing a fantastic job. They're located in your building. They have this wonderful tree exhibit now that's going all year. I know Judy was there, a lot of people. Is there any relationship with them? Because they're doing a great job too in your building.
Yes, there is. Yes, so our librarians actually speak with the History Museum staff regularly, and often we will help them with material that's available with us. I know currently there isn't an executive director or an archivist, so we reached out to try and I've reached out to you on the board to try and see how the library can help. But yes, they're in our building, but also we have talked about in the future too, doing some larger programs with the Friends especially.
Great.
Yeah. There is about 5, 6 libraries in Santa Monica, with the biggest one in Santa Monica and 6 centers. How they doing compared to our library here? I'm talking about budget and everything.
We're all under the same budget. So it's the main library and 4 branches. I would say Ocean Park and Fairview, because it's self-service, which means you go in and self-service, not full service. There's not as much staffing here, that we don't see as much activity here. And that's what we're trying to do, is to get it back to the levels where, I mean, we used to have weekly story times here. We used to have all of these things here. And without the staffing and support right now, we've got main library, Pico Branch open 5 days a week, Montana over 3 days. And then our plan was for Ocean Park and Fairview to get on at least 2 to 3 days a week, but not with the current resources we have. It would be too.
Hi, thank you so much for all you do as a parent in this neighborhood. I'm so grateful for what we had before the pandemic with the pajama nights when we met our neighbors and we met as a babies, when it's so crucial at that time to be with other people when you're raising a young person. Thank you so much for that. And I really hope that can come back. I'm curious if you use these spaces, if you ever would like sublet them to groups that want to run programs for children or want to run programs for seniors or, community groups that would want to use the space. Does the library ever do that, or you have to be part of this and send it over to you?
No, we actually rent the rooms to different organizations and groups. It is a fee, a nominal fee actually for groups, and they have to be open to, those who are coming to visit the library. I think the challenge, especially with Fairview Ocean Park, is because it's limited open. There still needs to be some type of staff connection on site, and that's where it's difficult, to coordinate. And so like this, even we're glad that we could do this, and we've been able to kind of coordinate around to have like security here so that we can do something like this, even though normally we're not open.
Well, we'll head towards the end. Okay, go for it. I just didn't see you back there, Patty.
First of all, I'm the one who schedules this every single one, and I want to really thank you for allowing us to do this on an off-hour time. And you're always welcome to come and, visit and eat. It's a big thing. We've been living in here for 50 years. We have been using this as long as we've been here, and now it just breaks our heart when we walk in and we see that children's area that has been so beautifully built and nobody ever goes there. Or everything that's over on this side, where there are a couple of people here on the computers. No, people just don't come here because it's not a warm place anymore. So we really need to get this open, even if it's only 2 days. So that we can get children in here, we can get all the people here again to make this what it was, how vibrant it was before. My second thing is the Friends of the Library. Are they taking good books to sell? I mean, I have like a copy of James. I have books that I bought we've read. That's it. They're clean, they're beautiful. Will they take them?
Yes, they take and can drop them off at the main library and have them in the library is open.
Yeah.
And we have security staff in the front, and and they'll make sure that it gets to the front. We do have an amazing set of volunteers that are really dedicated to helping and making sure that those get into those.
It's good to know.
We're gonna have a film for our docents at the Annenberg on the 22nd. And what your auditorium and stuff. It's really nice to be able to get back. Just having said that.
Well, become a board member. Thank you all. This is you were saying for being here and all that you have to go through for COVID. It's been a lot of work to keep all this. I have a question. I like your human book project idea. So I could project, I go to Judy Adams and be my book, and I could check her out. Would I get fined if I didn't show them?
Any other questions? Cool.
Sean, I don't think you can
Chris.
see me, but yeah.
Hold on, let me raise the volume. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Just a question on that slide. It said 88% of the pre-pandemic budget, but staffing was all the way down to 66%. So does that, the 34% staffing reduction, is that the full 12%, or have other areas outside of personnel been reduced?
So the 88% is the budget, and the 66% is because we have managed to do as needed and not full-time staff to plug in some of the holes, which of course is, takes less money than full-time staff. And so when you see that discrepancy of the budget, it's because of that. It's because we have more, sorry, I flipped that. We have more full-time staff and less as needed staff. And so full-time staff is more expensive, which accounts for more percentage of the budget. So because we have more full-time staff, so we started with 113 FTE. We were cut in 2020 to about 45 FTE. We are now up to about 73 FTE. And only a portion of that is as needed, where before, pre-pandemic, we had a lot more as needed. And so they were less money, but it was again, more staffing, more body people. Now we have the full-timers, which we get to retain. We had to cut all of our as needed, and slowly we've been reintroducing back as needed and as needed hours, which is, which again is less money, but we have less of that, right? So that's where the percentages are why it seems like it's higher percentage of restoration and lower percentage of actual staffing and bodies. I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we should just commend the library staff because they have been doing a fantastic job, on this smaller budget. Taking everything that we are conducting right now. So that's been really just fantastic. Everyone stepped up. And thank you for opening for our meetings.
And I'm gonna make a slightly off script pitch here, that won't hopefully impact immediately. Maybe or in two ways. One, if you know of anybody that's passionate about books, libraries, writing, etc. Looking to make donations or be involved in some bigger way, there's opportunities. And then really down the road, hopefully decades from now for all of us, think about your estate plan. My wife and I actually just got done doing some estate planning, and we earmarked 10% of whatever's left of that $100 for charitable purposes, and we're each picking 5 charities which had 10%. My wife was an avid reader, did bookmark. One of her 5 is Santa Monica Public Library, and we should all be thinking about doing things like that. One of my 5 is actually the Ocean Park Association. So I would also be pitch for that for everyone. So please think about that. Hopefully decades from now, that will be a big windfall. Thank you. Albie, we have one last speaker subject. We've all seen the outdoor signs, the digital outdoor signs popping up around the neighborhood and the city. They're brought to you by Big Outdoor. Albie, many of you know, has been super involved with the city and ran for city council and been on many boards, is advising and helping them, and wants to give an update on where they're at and where they're going.
All right, thank you, Sean. So yes, I know some of you in the room, but not everybody. As Sean said, my name is Alvin Gillich. I've lived in Santa Monica for about 20 years, been in multiple boards and commissions, and I still am, and wearing those variety of hats. Yes, I did run in 2022. My latest hat though is with an outdoor advertising company called Big Outdoor. And if you've noticed right here on the corner of Main and Ocean Park, as well as other areas here on Main Street and throughout the city, we've installed these digital kiosks, we call them. So they're basically 75-inch flat screen TVs oriented vertically, a nice kind of cool looking blue frame around it. And in passive mode, which means when it's just left alone, it flashes advertising. But when you go up and touch the screen, the advertising retreats to the upper margin, and that basically 75% of the screen becomes a directory. So there's different, they look like apps. It kind of looks like the face of your smartphone. They don't function as apps, so we call them tiles. But there's tiles on there that say transit, or the bus schedule. Directions will give you a map based on where you are at that moment, and then span out across the city. Where to eat, where to shop, take a selfie, events in town. All of that information is only in Santa Monica. So we're working on the software. There might be occasionally something slips in from West LA, but basically these are meant to just advise us as residents and visitors and whoever else comes to town on what you can do, where you can go in Santa Monica. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm really familiar with these things. I try to hit them every time I go by. They understand that the city makes more money when you tap.
Not literally hit them. Engage with them.
What confuses me, if it confuses me, it's gonna confuse everybody that drives in this town or walks. Is that it's hard to understand what they are, what you just described, because it's a full page ad. Is there any way that you can somehow maybe shrink the size of the ad a little bit, and so people understand what it is? I think that's.
Yeah, I mean, this program is less than a year old, I will say. So the first one went in at 4th and Wilshire last June, and the 25th one went in right here on the corner about 2 months ago. So it's been kind of a, rolling process. I've been doing videos. It does take some education to get people to touch it. It does say touch here on it. So if you do look at it, you will get that cue. But just a small correction. So yes, this is a moneymaker for the city. The city has paid no money for this program. Right? Just so you know, it is pure revenue. City gets $5 million a year from the 25 different kiosks, and that is a revenue share from the advertising sales. So it's not so much how many times you touch it, they make money. They make that money anyway. It's how many ads we go out and sell to large brands that want to, meet our eyeballs when we walk or drive by. So that's what, and I'm happy to say it's been going well. So this was phase 1 for the first 25. The council has approved another phase, which would be an additional 25. We haven't decided yet if and when we're going to do that, but those would kind of fan out deeper into further east into Santa Monica along the main boulevards. And yes, that would be an additional $5 million for a total of $10 million a year. We've been talking about budget a lot tonight, library, other things. So this is very welcomed money, new money to come to the city. It's been going well. So the other thing about ad sales, so a lot of if you look at it, a lot of the brands you'll see are like Nike and Google and Apple and some of the big traditional advertisers. We also have ads from 1212 on the Promenade and the Sanborn Hotel, and now Casa Del Mar is up there. So local businesses also can take advantage of this at heavily discounted rates. So if you know anybody who wants to get on there, have them talk to me, and we'll figure out a way that works. And we are also open to trade too. It doesn't always have to be a cash deal. We get trade time for this and we get that, so there's different ways to work this so that everyone wins, because these really are meant to be a benefit to all of us as residents and our businesses.
When these were in the process of being still pitched, there was a conversation about donating a certain amount of inventory to the local neighborhoods and the neighborhood organizations. Do you know any update on that?
So this and the kind of advertising speak, you get a share of voice. And so the minimum an advertiser would buy is 10%, which means 6 minutes an hour. And the ad would be 15 seconds, in a spurt, and then another one. So basically with 6 minutes an hour, you get 24 times you're seeing in that hour. The city owns 10% of the share of voice. So a lot of anything related to neighborhood groups or other city organizations can be used on that in that time. And I'm partnering with the partnership team, Melissa and Connie at City Hall, to try and fill that time. So if you guys have anything you want, let me know and I'll try and pitch it to them to get it on there. I will say that if you are out and about walking now, you're watching the screens for a bit, you'll see a screen come up that says March happenings. So what I've been doing is I've been submitting a list of the things happening each month, and then the city graphic designer makes it all pretty, and then they put it up there, and this will be up there all month. It'll be stuff like, St. Patrick's Day at Jameson's, or, Women's History Month and the chamber function coming up this week. Whatever's going on, let me know. If you guys know of anything for Main Street or your organization coming up April, May, whenever the rest of this year, let me know with a good few weeks in advance, and I'll get it on the list, and hopefully it'll appear there.
Sean knows everything.
And the thing is that the list gets too long, there's a QR code on it too, so you can hover with your phone, and then the longer list will pop up.
That's a monthly cycle you just described?
Yes.
Is that a month, so it would be, you do that.
So for example, the city told me today they would love the April information by the end of the week. So, because they need a bit of turnaround time to crank it out too. So, yes, they.
Something like each cleanups or not, it's not properly announced, posted, like that.
We can try, I can put, yeah, let's try it. I mean, it's been more kind of like fun dinner stuff, whatever, but we can do that. And
And
the other
it's not hyper targeted, is it? Like, there can't be specific ones in Ocean Park and different ones in Montana.
or something like that, yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
The other thing I will say, so that's just kind of me curating special information for our eyes. If you have an event, there's an event tile on there that shows everything going on in the city. And those, and our technology pulls from the Santa Monica Travel and Tourism calendar and the downtown Santa Monica calendar. So whatever's on those two funnels into the kiosks and is part of the event tab. So if you have something going on, make sure, since you're not really part of DTSM, make sure SMTT knows and get on their calendar, and then it will automatically appear that way too.
You ever like focus on a couple of the major holidays like Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving, Earth Day?
We did it. I mean, obviously, we're less than a year into it, so anything coming up,
Yes.
is still kind of new for us. But we did our first happenings for November and December, really focusing on the holiday time.
Sure. Would it be good to email you?
Yes, so and again, my role is community relations director. So anything related to these things, you can feel free to send my way. You love them, you hate them, you want this, you want that. Tell me. It's Alvin@bigoutdoor.com.
So are you pulling from the pier too, their events?
The pier has its own tab on the pier one. The piers events are usually on the SMTT calendar.
Okay.
So that would, yeah, but I'm in conversation with Jim and his team about these a lot as well.
I think he's doing a great job.
I think he does.
All that kind of stuff. I like to see more advertising on the blue bus. We need stuff in the budget.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I think it's a problem.
I don't either. I mean, if, again, if any of you want a tour of these, I'm happy to go show you how they work, what you can do, but they really are a great resource. And when you scroll through the tiles, it's like an Instagram feed, you get like the top 9 or 12 that appear, then you can keep scrolling, there's more of a need. We're gonna start to fine tune that. We have data to show which ones are used most and which ones aren't used at all. And we'll start to clean out some of the ones that people aren't interested in and put some more useful information for all of us.
So to my point, I think that's right. I think that's great as you're rethinking it. People, like, you go downtown, right? It's full of people from other places. They just think it's an ad machine, but if they have a way to identify that, they can see what's going on in the city, where the restaurants are. I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
Part of it.
The one at the pier is so fun to watch. I go out, I visit them a couple times a week and take pictures and things like that. But the one at the pier gets so much use, and there's a selfie app on there. It's called Photo Booth. And it's really fun. You press that and the whole thing kind of turns into a camera. And you can stand there with whoever you're with and take a picture, and then,
Really?
yeah, you have a QR code or email it to yourself, and you don't save the data, but the picture is there for at least 24 hours. And that's been a lot of fun. People kind of create their memories. You can pick different backgrounds, images of Santa Monica. I will say, I like to talk about public safety with these too. So each kiosk has an emergency call button on it. We're in the process of fine tuning, tweaking a little, technical glitch with it, but when they are activated, it is a direct call to 911. The operator will see the address you're at, the address of the kiosk, and so, depending on the type of situation a person is in, help is on the way. They also have cameras at the top of them, so the top frame, there's one facing each direction. So if the kiosk is oriented east-west, there's a north face and a south face, and those cameras going each way. The police department is in the process of updating their video storage system. And so they're going to integrate these 50 cameras into their network of cameras so that we will have additional camera eyes on the street in case there's crime or anything.
Wow.
Cool. Last question from us.
But it had the Palisades fire information on it, but it rotated too quickly. So just like that.
Yeah, it's 15-second spurts. With that though, they were on there. They had, instead of 10% share of voice, they had 30 to 40%, which means it came up more frequently. But yeah, you're right. In times like that,
I'll just freeze it. Or
Yeah,
it was just the top part anyway, so maybe you could freeze the top.
okay.
I took a picture of it.
That's interesting to see that. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, if anything else, this is a new program. We're kind of building the plane as we fly it. So if anything comes up that you guys notice or questions about, please let me know.
Cool. Thank you. I know a couple of people have to leave before we start with board business, but there are a couple of quick things I just wanted to mention. First is I want Sam in the corner to stand up really quickly and talk about his business. Dominate the gym on Main Street, just joined OPA as a business member, so I just want to say thank you and please support them. And then secondly, I'm gonna ask Mark to stand up. We have our OPA t-shirts here. If anyone wants to buy one, he's wearing one right now, so he's gonna be our model for the day. Hit me or Patty up to buying a t-shirt. Then we're gonna jump into board business. If anyone has to leave, please just do so quietly. We understand. And then I will turn the camera around and jump into board business. Thank you, everyone. I'll give people 30 seconds to leave before we get started. So, of course. Oh, yeah, you're welcome to. It's just some people don't. Jumping into board business because we only have about a half hour. I don't have anything meaningful from exec committee. We did not have an offsite meeting this month. Do want to chat a little. We do have a positive update on finances. Patty can speak to that.
I wasn't really, I have paperwork that I've been trying to get because I was told not enough time. But I could definitely get deep into the finances next month. But the one thing I would like to say is the city is still holding on our neighborhood grant. And that neighborhood grant is what we definitely need to stay above water. Now they said, okay, we're looking into it now. This was last week. Haven't heard back. We're keeping our fingers crossed. If we don't get the grant, we are going to be very close in what we spend for the year with what the money we have right now. So what I'm thinking is we may have to raise our membership fees a bit. $10. Asking you if you're not a member. Looks like everybody gets paid much. I should have said this earlier. You know, always make a contribution to the newsletter, which you get for free. That could help. But there are other things that we have to start looking at is how much we're spending and how we may need to downsize a little bit of our spending. So let's keep our fingers crossed for this grant. That will take care of everything. But right now, we're not looking at buying any new stuff to distribute. It'd be hard to have parties. It'd be hard to do other things that we usually enjoy doing. So I will go over this next month.
Yep.
And also, we are getting a lot of people who are joining, but who don't pay. And I'm emailed them saying, you are not paid. And you would email me back and want to know why they're, you know, but a lot of them just don't. And so I give a certain amount of time and then I just have to throw them out. And I don't like doing that.
A couple notes to add to that. We did just add PayPal and Venmo onto the site, so hopefully that'll make it easier for people to pay. The city did indicate in their email that they are planning to give the grants. We just haven't, they're just really slow on the follow-ups. So, yeah, so.
What we have already given them as what we're doing. So we don't have to rewrite our grant application. We just have to keep on doing what we said we were going to do, which is very nice. And we will be able to, if they give it to us, we'll be able to cover the expenditures until August. But, you know, we've been holding our breath for.
Well, you have a question? Again, I hope it's decades from now. Maybe ask all of our parents to put it in theirs.
It's just different standing right now, and it's a little dicey. Okay, through it.
I think that's it on finance and executive committee. Communications, no substantive changes, newsletters cranking along. I think we're about to hit 2,200 people. So growing at a slow but measured clip, and readership stays strong. And it's free. Judy, anything to talk about with respect to OPA Connects?
Just that we have a great time every Wednesday at noon. And we would love to have more people call in. It's a Zoom. And we talk about whatever's gone on in the city council meeting the night before, if there was one. And we talk about things that are going on in the neighborhood. And it's a wonderful conversation. So I just urge you all on Wednesdays at noon. And Sean always puts it in his newsletter on Monday.
And Judy, you often have this council members come.
Yes, we try to have a council member at least every meeting, maybe every week.
Where do you have the meeting?
What?
Zoom.
Meetings on Zoom.
Online. It's a Zoom.
Thank you.
And we have a great time.
Shifting to events, we were hoping to have a March sort of like beginning of spring mixer. I don't think we're going to be able to have that, but Robbie, who unfortunately is not available tonight, is working on locking in a location. There's still an outside chance we'll do it in March, but in all likelihood it's going to get pushed to April. Part of the issue is also funding. And if we did one right now, we're going to have to not sponsor any food or drink. It'll all be self-serve or self-pay until we get the neighborhood grant. So stay tuned on that. I believe jumping into task forces, there hasn't been a lot of meetings yet. And I take some blame for this. I haven't been beating the drum on people that said they wanted to be involved in things. I'm going to do better about that over the next month. So I know there was a housing committee meeting last week, but unfortunately only 2 people attended and neither of them are here tonight. Dave had his hand up about something, and then John, you're after Dave.
I did schedule like 3 beach cleanups, so we are committed this year officially to be able to pay for the adopted beach cycle again.
Awesome.
Put out the dates. It's a bit early, but we are locked in. He wants to help put together these cleanups at Tower 26. And also Make Music is coming up again Saturday, June 21st. I'm looking for anyone that can help me put together a music event on at the beach at South Lot 1 on the grass canopy generator live music. Anybody wants to work with me?
Cool.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll be looking for talent. Yeah.
I can make sure to connect you. I can make sure to connect you to after the meeting. Remind me if I don't. Cool. John, you had your hand up?
Housing.
Yes.
You know, the city is pretty much figuring out what to do with Bergamot. That means the Main Street parking lots are next. There are 3 parking lots in question. Landmass, if I remember correctly, is bigger than the Gelson's parking lots. So that means we could easily see somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 to 2,000 units built on those parking lots. Now, I'm not sure how that'll work out, but I think this organization needs to start thinking about what we need to be able to do as one, what our values are when it comes to housing, and do we want that much built? Do we want any built? Do we want to build more? And 2, what does it take to have our will enforced at the city council? Those of you must know that we are in this predicament because of the last council. And the council, in order to protect single-family neighborhoods, decided to put all of development on the boulevards. That means Main Street. I'm sure you all know that you could build a really big building on Main Street. Because the limit's 54 feet. When you add in the bonuses, I mean, that could be 120 feet. That's 10 stories. This is what is in front of us. So everyone's got to think about what we want our position to be when it comes to housing and how we want to be able to make sure that's met. And my point was that we're in this predicament because the last council spent a lot of time listening to other neighborhood organizations. And that's why we are in the position that we're in to carry a bulk of the new housing, especially the low income and moderate housing, which is what we're talking about. So that's where we're at. We have to think about it.
I don't want anything over a 5 stories. That would
Okay.
be the tallest building I think we could possibly have here, next to the ocean. I mean, we stopped what was going on when they were building all of those things, in the 60s and the 70s. But 5 stories is tall as it should get.
So the difficulty with that is, the state says you can build higher and the city has no control. So that, as much as, you know, I think many people would agree with you, Patty, I don't think that's something that we're gonna be able to do.
Well, maybe we could give a little more. Just be a little meaner about it. I don't want to see these, I don't want to see this turn into Santa Monica with 10, 15, 20-story buildings, because that's not what we want.
That's what I was getting at when I was talking about. Yeah, it's up to the council if they want to go, the cities have the choice to go that route. Santa Monica, you know, they always talk about more housing. But there's 2 types of housing: rentals and stakeholder housing. So, you know, condominiums. But as far as the space, the use, I call it density. I think that's the subject that we're talking about. Not only density, but the skyline. You have traffic.
Yes.
So I think we need really a discussion about if we're gonna go in a direction, we all gotta talk about the direction that we're gonna represent.
So I guess the question is, there's sort of 2 folds there. It's one is, you know, does OPA want to be taking any sort of like making any statements or taking positions or, you know, openly advocating for certain things? And then how best to do that?
So where I was going, Patty, is that if that's what you want to see, right? And that's what we as a group want to see, then we have to take the housing obligation that the city is putting there and figure out how to get the council to spread it across the city. That some of that housing should go on Montana, some of it should go on Ocean Park Boulevard, whatever that looks like. So that is where, right, that's our, I think that's the only answer that we have, but you know, there may be something.
We need to spread it out. I would say that they listen to other neighborhood associations about whatever. Basically Sunset Park. You know, that's the truth, even though we are on the other side of the street. But if we're doing Main Street, if we're doing this area, we need to have a say on what we want our city to look, our part of the city to look like.
I don't think you guys are disagreeing with each other. We have to figure out. Oh, okay, just want to make sure. Just want to make sure, because I know you're both kind of passionate on this one. Yeah, we just need to figure out the how. Mark, you had your hand up.
Just.
I want to make it clear you don't have to be on the board to be talking.
Versus 3, what kind of limitations do we have for a lobbying kind of efforts like this?
I would ask Patty if there's any specific limitations on lobbying efforts or advocacy efforts. I don't think there are any.
No.
Yeah. It's just figuring out what the action plan would be and what our position is. Yes.
Representative who's gonna be here next month.
He asking him, you know, what are you doing for the city? But said the gun that the state put into it.
It's a good question to ask of him. I will say that mandate has already come down and the city's already adopted it. So like, I think the main near-term focus is probably on making sure the people in the city are aware of Ocean Park concerns as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. If you ever see any city council people out and about, chew their ear on this. That, you know, there's plenty of sort of like ground level work that can be done around that. They you know, there's a small but very vocal minority of people that tend to speak up around issues, and they only hear the squeaky wheel. One of the officers was talking with John and me tonight before the meeting started about like, what are the issues that Santa Monicans care about the most, and he goes, I never hear, or he goes, it seems that Santa Monicans don't care about bike lanes, because I, as a police officer, never hear people complaining about bike lanes. They're complaining about homeless people. They're complaining about this and that. Like, you need, if you ever see, you know, people in the city that have any sort of say in our rules and policies, don't hesitate to chew their ear about what you're passionate about and what you feel is going right and wrong. So. Yeah, sorry, Judy. My peripheral sucks tonight.
I just went on my phone and went to the Orchard Park Association. And it says donate.
Yeah.
And I put my finger on donate. And was able to make a donation, and I just thought I would challenge others to do that too. It was not hard. I just right here
Awesome.
when we were talking.
And I want to say, I did take in $60 today in membership. Because I've been bugging so many people. Yes.
Just a quick question. So you said 2,200 people get our newsletter?
Correct.
Yes.
How many people of that 2,200 are
Members? Maybe 300. That's why the whole idea of it being totally free. You know, you'd think somebody could donate in like $5 or something.
It's just interesting.
We've made multiple calls in the newsletter to donate even $1 or $5, and unfortunately the response rate's not strong. Like, we get great readership. We get 60 to 65% open rate of every newsletter.
But you think just be Ocean Park pitches and
I've done it multiple times. People
Yes,
don't.
people are happy to sign for them. To revert back to the housing issue, the councilman said that we gotta, do this to pay for the lawsuits, get taxes from selling real estate. But I thought afterwards that I don't know if the city is viable to float a bond. You know, where investors voted invest in the city. I don't know if that has been explored, but it's a big, if he's basing all this development that we need to get taxes from selling real estate to pay for a lawsuit, we're talking about the change of the city's character. So I think we ought to ask if the city can pay for their lawsuits by floating a bond.
They've been discussing that at the last few city council meetings, a $460 million bond. Yeah.
Yes.
But when you're saying you don't want anything over 5 stories, you just talking like Main Street in that way, so it's not blocking the ocean, or all of Santa Monica?
I would prefer all of them.
So what do you think the alternatives are besides building up? Because it doesn't seem like it's that.
Well, I know that there's a lot of apartments and condos that have been occupied yet.
Yes, that.
A lot of them.
Yes, and there's so much.
Absolutely. There you go. If you're building something that's not affordable and it's empty, what's the use? Because you're not making any money on it.
So
Basically you are. But what's the use of building something that nobody can afford?
So how many of them of like residential do we know that are city making that?
I think this is a few thousand.
Yeah.
It's about 2,000-3,000.
This is the topic that is important and requires some stuff in this data, right? It's complicated. We don't, as we have discussion on, maybe how do you propose for strong, if you have, can we do like a little subcommittee that?
We have a housing committee. It exists. We do need more than 2 people to show up to those meetings. And we do need to come out with action plans, and I'll talk to Robbie about that, but please show up to the next meeting. Please message with Robbie about that, who unfortunately can't be here tonight.
Is outreach into the community for the people that live here now, right? What do they want us to? And I know you could probably be a bridge to that, but I think those voices, aren't really, they need to be heard too, but it's like a citywide.
I wanted to use this to bridge to, speaking of bridges, to bridge to something that Dave and I were messaging about, that's semi-related, but not, but you wanted to bring up, the Civic. And Save the Civic, and if there's any role for OPA to be playing or not be playing. I will say I do know that I don't know if anyone read the letter that Jesse Zwick had sent to the community about sort of the not Save the Civic side of things. Is we do need money to pay for housing, and his position was that's a really valuable plot of land. And I just I know a lot of these issues, whether we realize it or not, do start to entangle with each other. Dave, do you want to talk about what you were thinking about with the civic stuff in OPA?
To me, personally, I mean, we could do grassroots survey again. Like, does it open in general, majority or not majority support keeping a civic or letting go to housing? And what's the idea on the housing? Is there a cap at some point? Like, what is the limit? What's too much? I mean, he's kind of proximity. Looking at the survey, I mean, I don't know, I think kind of surveyed again, open as a board. I don't think they're gonna talk about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say it's survey.
It is a cultural, it is piece of our culture.
I mean, most cities have, is that.
And we have 3 parking lots that are going to go and become apartments. Okay, great. But this is part of our culture. And those of us who have been here for a while, have utilized it, done what it's about, and would like to see it continue as what it was.
John?
So I think that's all fine and dandy. No,
Let's be respectful.
The amount of money it takes to rehab the building. Remember, we had the guy from the school district here that said it was gonna take $150 million. The city clearly doesn't have that money. We have seen an attempt by, those that are a little more sensitive to the arts than perhaps some others are. A group called Save the Civic. I know B was here a little earlier. He's big on that. They basically found a group of people that, had an interest, and the city signed an exclusive negotiating agreement with them and said, you have, 6 months to come in and make a proposal. Well, they've been at it for 9 months. They don't have a proposal. I think, their proposal might be constrained by the idea that we have to save the physical building versus, if you want an entertainment center, I could build the Sphere. I can fill the Sphere. I can advertise on the ceiling, right? That's how I make money. There's all that kind of stuff that's involved. So I think when we talk about the use case, that's one thing, but when we talk about the building, because that's what's landmark, that's something else.
So what is the city council gonna be discussing tomorrow about? That is so important.
So it's only important to save the civic. So it's not important to the rest of us in the sense that, the time is up for them to either put forth a proposal or say, we don't know, or whatever it is, because the city needs to do something, right? It's very set, it can't stay open. So that's all that it is. It's not the future, it's just.
I mean, if we lose it, we lose it. Just like we're losing the airport. But to me, that's an important part of this. In the bowling alley, all this other things are going away. I know it's gone. But
another big piece of our culture. I am not fighting what they're doing there, but I'm sad that it's gonna happen. This is another thing that's going. I mean, I've been here a lot of it, some of you people have been a lot. So. Yeah, I'm not angry.
Last issue, last office, yeah.
As part of Gary's conversation and some other people, the topic of the Olympics came up and Jerry lit up, and I just wanted to know if there's anything that's changed, because I haven't heard a word.
I haven't heard anything new either.
That's
You're
all.
more in the know than I am.
Well, that's why I was like, really? Can somebody clue me in? Because
Yeah, I don't know
it
anything.
doesn't look like
It's happening. The city of LA has decided they have a really crappy deal. So they're trying to renegotiate with the Olympic Committee. And the Olympic Committee is basically going, screw you, you signed it. So I think that's where they are, because even they realized that, you know, they could be on the hook for a lot of money.
I mean, they finally read the document. We read it first.
So the estimate, so it's interesting.
Financial problems.
So that's why the city hasn't just signed on the dotted line, because that's their position. So it turns out that the Santa Monica really will not see a revenue bump from the Olympics. But it'll be so small, because even if the volleyball's not here, people are still gonna stay at hotels and eat at restaurants.
Yeah, he doesn't mean we're not gonna get a revenue bump from the Olympics. We're not gonna get a revenue bump from hosting any Olympic events, is what he meant.
Providing supplier that
Right.
12, $13 that we call 13 million. That we know. So yes, exactly.
Which would double or triple for sure.
Any other committees or task forces have anything to talk about? Abe, it's been nearly 2 months since we've had a life-changing natural disaster in our area. Anything on emergency stuff?
John?
What's was there anything on emergency preparedness to talk about?
Judy, you want to? Anyways, couple of things came up, I investigated, there was some talk about, somebody was interested in CERT training. There's not gonna be any CERT training, there's no CERT training planned for this year, that might change. Talk to the, Naomi at, OEM, that's what she said. Also, we've had OEM as guest speaker sometime during the year. That's not gonna happen this year either, because it's just a tool. And they haven't hired the guy who came to speak, he left. And they haven't hired a replacement yet. I also sent an email to Chief Halleck, the fire department chief, about maybe sending in, having a speaker come to one of our open meetings for this year, talk about general things, or talk about the community connect program that's starting. The fire department is starting like last month. And it would be a database of people, in the area. Just to pick out, like, people who have special needs, disabilities, things like that. So when the fire department was responding, they could respond, they would know something beforehand, so that's that.
Thank you. Judy,
I haven't had a meeting because I've been working a little bit.
how dare you?
That I'll follow up a meeting for the emergency.
Thanks. Did you have something to add, Judy?
I just wanted to say that I have a new dog. Her name is Ginger. She's 9 pounds.
Good. That's a good transition in a sort of open forum. Dave.
Or is that close? Yeah, and it looks like the lighting on Lincoln's almost ready to, some of it's been turned on again. But look, pedestrian.
Cool.
We also got funding to put in a pedestrian activated crosswalk at Hill and like.
Good.
So
Um, unless there's anything else, just teasing up the April meeting. We're having Elaine Polachek, who's the interim city manager, join us. Tony Lopez, presenting the updated, Parks and Rec master plan. And it looks like we may have, Assembly members Burr back. We'll see, what his schedule looks like. I'll follow up on that later. And then do a deeper dive on all things finance with Patty. That's the preliminary, roster of key things for April. Unless there's anything else, I see, Jeff is stretching back there. No, not yet. I believe a couple weeks ago, Kelly, who couldn't be here tonight, emailed out the minutes from the last meeting. I didn't see any online questions. Is there a motion to accept the February minutes? Will had his hand up first. Is there a second, Jeff? Board members only, all in favor? Any nays? Passed. We do, yeah. And it's 8:20 PM. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Ian beat Jeff. Ian got the motion. Jeff seconds, all in favor. Have a great night, everyone.
Your name is on the.
Thank you. Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. 1 sec, I just gotta shut this down.